Hey Rivals coaches, Zay Valor here. Happy patch day, everyone. 3.1 will be live probably today. Just working out some kinks and getting it live for us. But in the meantime, what I wanted to do is go over the patch notes with you and then kind of go over how things have practically changed and then theoretically how things could be looking for the meta. Now, we're going to be focusing mostly on the practical side. Theory may creep in there every now and again. It's just how I think. I'm going to tell you everything that I think about this as we go through the different patch notes and changes. So let's get started here. So 3.1, here, the big change right off the bat in terms of how it actually is going to look for you is that there's now the Fixture Screen update. This is a match history. It will let you go in and see the post-match screen for all of your games, including those in which you're AFK. Very, very useful if you're wanting to look and see how your team did, what's working, what's not working, how did skill checks go. It's awesome. If you're a data junkie like me, you're going to absolutely love this. It's going to give you a greater understanding of how your team is playing when you're not there and should make being AFK way more powerful as you can fine-tune how your team works and what it looks like playing against other teams. Excellent change. Really excited to see it. It's going to be really nice for all of us as coaches. So, just... Okay, so also added a home screen, just gives a quick little overview of what's going on with your team, as well as the last two matches that you played. All right, now let's get into the meat of this right off the bat. We're going to talk about the improved match experience. Now, I didn't notice this a ton when I was doing the beta, but I'll take their word for it, is that they updated the odds after picks and bans. This should help us understand a little bit about who's got the edge. So I didn't notice it a heck of a lot. It's really going to be the more important changes is how we interact in game. One nice quality of life change is that if for any reason a player fails the check due to either team play or condition, it will show you on their player card on the bottom of the screen while that play is happening. Really great indicator to see why did I lose that check or why did I win. If it was because of any one of those two, it will now show you, which is super nice. They did add some new art between the different plays. So if you do get a zoom in on a play to see it actually go, you will get some new art afterwards. So that's pretty nice. It makes it way more custom, I believe. Now, also the MVP is always going to go to someone on the winning team. Fun little quality of life patch. It doesn't actually affect anything other than just the flavor of it, but still a nice tiny change. Very important bug fix here. In between the phases, that arrow that's either blue or red is actually going to show who is stronger in terms of champ strength. So really useful determining who's going to have initiative, who's going to have priority, and who can win some team fights. Pay attention to this now. This is going to be something that will help you a ton. All right, match balancing. Now, if you've been playing 3.0, you know one thing is true. Ambush is absolutely bonkers. Well, that's no longer the case, though it's still strong. It's been nerfed considerably, and a lot of things have been buffed. So let's go through these one at a time. This is where the theory is going to creep in just a little bit to the practical changes. So let's take a look one bullet point at a time. First one, combat outcomes are now much less determined by the skill check. Yes, this is very helpful. This means that getting a blue bar is not as crazy as it once was, or getting a red bar for that matter, and is actually a nice boost to basic team power. One other change that's actually, I don't believe, mentioned here is that the gray bar on skill checks has been significantly increased. I think it changed from about 10% to a 30% chance now for it to gray bar. This is actually a great boost for those who have higher basic team power, as what it does is it creates less space for the opponent to actually get a good check. So now the difference between a high power and a low power is much more pronounced and will show itself more frequently in games. Now with gray bars, they are generally better for the attacker. This is just due to how the game has to find a way to end itself. So the attacker has to have priority in some way. In this case, it's going to come with gray bars being slightly better for the attacker. So it is a significant change there. It's going to help a lot with late game teams in that they can actually start to make a comeback and not get swallowed by blue bars. In addition, a fantastic change here that's going to help a lot is that if, for instance, you have a play that uses all 5 of your players, even if only 3 of the enemy players get involved, all 5 of their champions, assuming they're alive, will also add their skill to the check. This is to fix the problem of ambush, invade, and team up. Now, we all know that those are 3 very strong plays in 3.0, and they've been nerfed with this simple change. Ambush was so good because what it would do is it would, 1, create a 5-on-3 in top when you ambush Hydra that would not only have the 5v3 in champ power, but it would also be 5 of the attacking players against 3 of the defending for the skill check as well. This caused Ambush to have such a huge power disparity because not only were you having a huge champ strength bonus by having 2 extra players, but you also got their attributes as well. It was insane. That's why it had to change. And this is such a simple and yet effective change. It's going to take into account all players that are alive, or if say a play only uses 2 of the attacking players, well, then you only get 2 from the defender as well. So it's going to try to match it as long as there are people alive to match. So what that's going to do is going to make it a lot easier to defend, and specifically, and this is where the theory comes in, it should make specialist players a little bit better. You can now, if say for instance you're worried about ambush, you're still worried about ambush, as you kind of should be. It's still a great play. You can have somebody whose survival and awareness is high that won't even be part of the play, but will still contribute to that check. Another quick thing about ambush, I don't think it's mentioned in the patch notes, but a gray bar still allows the attacker to attack, but it'll only usually attack 1 person and be hard to kill them. Conversely, if you get a red bar on ambush and you're the attacker, congratulations, ambush didn't happen at all. Huge boost for survival and awareness, huge. It makes them incredibly good at getting rid of ambush. There's another nerf to ambush here we'll talk in just a little bit. But yeah, so this will really help by making sure that all players that are alive get accounted for in team checks, will really help the defender survive. Huge boost to late game teams as they can actually no longer drown in blue bars. And in addition, makes it so that the mid game is not as swingy. If you're down a player, that's not as big as it once was. Huge, great change. We've seen it play out a lot in testing. The mid games are way more dynamic. You get to late game a lot more now. It's excellent. Ambush is not the terror it once was, but I will tell you there is something terrifying, and that's double ambush. That is something that can happen now. Here, let me try to find a picture. It's absolutely terrifying. And I have seen it one time. Let me just pull it up here. There it is. Right there. Lane swap and team up can now do double ambush. Yeah, it was absolutely disgusting. A bot got it off on me. It was no fun. But that's okay. That means that teams that can do that are going to be strong, and we need those types of teams. So this is actually a fantastic change. It also addresses something we'll talk about in a bit, which is that combo plays now accurately trigger when they should. There's no going to be any missed combo plays. I think they took away a good chunk of the position-based combo plays, like for instance, if you invade and bot, then your top doesn't get the farm, things like that. I wasn't able to test everything, but that was my experience with it. Okay, next let's go into the combat and movement logic. I know this has been a pain point for a lot of people. Really good change here as well. If, for instance, you're down 2 players and the opponent is starting to 5-man a dragon, your remaining 3 players are not going to run in and kamikaze. No, they're going to go in, look, see that they're there, and then nope out of there. So no longer are they going to just suicide themselves for no reason. The only place in which this is not true is defending some later towers. They will try their best if they believe the game is on the line. So they are going to defend there. In addition, team fights will actually show people from both teams dying. So if you are very similar in strength or even just slightly ahead, you will see more back and forth. The players have gotten a lot better at focus firing people. So you will see some cases. I saw one fight, I think I lost 2 and then the opponent lost 3 players in one fight. It was bloody. But yeah, it was really nice. It was a great change that makes it so that the steamrolling in mid gets clamped down quite a bit. Also, the way lane pushing works has changed as well. They are going to push towers more evenly now. So you're going to see a lot of times where you'll push top, then mid, then bot. You may get all tier 1s, then most of tier 2s, and then 1 tier 3, and then core. But you're not sure which one it's going to be unless you plan for it by a certain place. It was really fun in the beta. When I was testing it, I actually got a game where I did not push mid tower at all, which in 3.0 was completely unheard of. But I was able to go and completely just through the top lane, push in and win. Really fun change. It's a way to make it so that there are different strategies now to what do you push, when do you push. It makes pushing more difficult. Pushing for the win, you're going to see a lot less mid 2 wins unless you're built for it now, which is really cool from the theory side, is that there are now going to be hyper-aggressive teams where mid 2 is not just a birthright. So they're going to have to work a little bit harder and build a little bit more specifically. But I'll let you figure out how to build those teams. All right, let's keep going down. Okay, so we now have the plays being balanced. Each play, both power and combo, now has 3 roles that it's usable in. This is a nerf for some and a buff for others. It's a nerf for things like invade, team push, team up, engage. What are the other ones? You know, there's a bunch of plays where you could put them anywhere and they would be good. Belfail and Rinks were particularly good at this because they both had their power plays and then also team push together. It was insane. So they brought him down to 3, and it also buffs some aggressive plays. Aggression used to be solely based on the jungler. The jungler was the hottest item if you were an aggressor because you wanted to have ways to ambush, you wanted gank, you wanted all those really high power aggressive plays. Well, now they're easier to get to. For instance, gank can now be used from the top, jungle, or mid. That makes the Beast and Hervades a lot more deadly in mid lane because they will get gank, ambush, and most of their other plays. So really good changes there. It'll make things like fight monster in the mid game easier because now Zaire and Feyna have one more position they can be in to get that power play off. So really nice. The defensive plays have gotten buffed to insane levels. It's awesome now. You can actually play defensive. So what they're going to do is freeze, defensive swap, and turtle are now, if you were to get a gray or blue bar on the check, you can now prevent your opponent from getting a red bar against you in that lane. That is huge. It's huge. It means that you can essentially stop pushes in their tracks. You can stop anything that would try to attack that lane and make it so all they can get is a gray bar or you win the check. It's awesome. It makes defending so much easier, as well as just feels so much better. They don't feel like just a farm with extra steps now. They actually defend, which is great. Turtle Up does that for all 3 lanes. Turtle Up is no longer broken, where it would just straight up give Hydra. It will, 1, get you some farm, make it so that on all pushes for late, they now can only get gray bars or worse. And you can go attack Hydra. Now, it's going to put your priority a bit lower, so your opponent's going to get first. But if you survive those initial attacks from your opponent, you're going to win that game. Turtle now is actually worth using, so that's good. Ward and Clear Vision. Ward was a great positional tool in the early, but did really nothing in the mid game. So it's been changed, and it's now a proper counter to Ambush. I told you Ambush was getting nerfed. Here's another way. Ward does the same thing as the defensive plays. It will prevent all good checks for your opponent in the river. Invade, ambush, things like that now are going to be much harder to do if you're warding. We're going to see a lot more warding moving forward. So excellent there. We have a new mechanic called bait plays. There are 3 of them. They are all power plays. The first one is going to be gank. It is now a bait play in addition to an aggressive play. Then bait split push, obviously, and then bait fight. Those 3, if you get a gray or red or blue bar on your skill check, is going to mean that you can no longer get red bars on your next 2 plays. Excellent. It's going to help a lot with pushing. It's going to help a lot with being aggressive. It's going to close out games in late game. They got a huge boost here. And so it does help a ton to just keep that momentum going. So really like the bait mechanic, as well as the new defensive ones. The fact that you can manipulate checks like that is so powerful and so much fun. From a theory standpoint is how much do you do it, when do you do it, and what plays are you doing it for. All right, next they did go ahead and change some of the attributes for all of the for some of the power plays, as well as clear vision. You'll notice that now bait fight and take dragon do timing and knowledge. This is a huge buff to focus scaling tactics, and all power plays now actually have a tactic that boosts both of their attributes. So you have a lot more control over which power plays you boost. In addition, the counter attributes for a lot of power plays have changed. I'll post it again here. They've all changed to where now there is I don't want to call it rock, paper, scissors because it's more complicated than that, but where one tactic set counters another and they go into each other. I'll get you a little bit more detail on that. I'm still putting together the web on how you can look at that. But they have been changed to be countered by a direct tactic set now, all of them. The only one that is unique is the fact that Disturb, now any power play that is boosted by Disturb is countered by Disturb. So that makes Disturb kind of powerful. Big problem with Disturb is the fact that because it has 3 sets of ATR that are all different, it's really hard to make a full Disturb team. You could look at, however, supplementing some tactics with a Disturb to finish out games or control the mid or control the early. So, something to keep in mind. All right, they fixed here where Engage didn't use your jungler. So Engage is gank light now. It doesn't have the bait part to it. So it is significantly less powerful, but still very good. And they fixed some play descriptions. So be sure to look at that. Look at the play descriptions, make sure you know what roles your plays can be in and what they do now. Some things have changed, so be sure to take a look at those. But that's it for 3.1. Those are all the practical changes. From a theory standpoint, excuse me, we're looking at a much later game focused meta. Now, I say that, but understand that if you build your team aggressive, you can still win in mid 2. It's harder now. You have to get an earlier lead, and you have to maintain that lead a lot more carefully than you did before. You can't just steamroll someone with ambush. You're now going to have to figure out how are you going to close the game in mid 2. This is a good thing. This is a really good thing. There's now going to be a lot of counterplay, and people are going to have to build more specifically. Another thing that's changing, I don't believe that I mentioned it here, but it's in here, is that basic team power is going to matter a lot more for how your team fights. In a fight, it's going to take the ATRs evolved, and if, for instance, you as a team has 2,000 for the ATR combo and everything, and your opponent has 1,000. Not only do you have a better chance to have a good skill check, but your team is going to be better with their accuracy and evasion than the enemy team, giving you another boost. This should really help those situations where 72K players were losing to 12K bots and things like that, as now their players will have significantly higher accuracy than their opponent, regardless of the skill check. So another fantastic change will really help those high BTP players really get to use the power that they've strived so hard to get. But yeah, so in terms of the meta, I'm calling this, in my head right now, the theory is that this is a carry meta. You're gonna need at least one late game champ just in case you get there. Because you're going to get there a lot more frequently, even if you're an aggressive team. Someone to close out the game. Someone who you can feed to make them as big as possible so that when the late game comes, they can do their thing. So with that, I hope you guys get to enjoy the team building, the new roles, look at your team, see how they're trained, see what roles are available to their plays, and you may have to make a new team for this. But that's okay, that's part of the fun. So, I know this was a longer video than I normally do. Just wanted to go over this patch, the patch changes and everything. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll give as much information as I can. And I hope to see you out there, coaches. I'll see you later.